Michael. This is Scott Jordan. You're watching live here at Cellars of Sonoma in beautiful Railroad Square, Santa Rosa, California. I'm here with Michael Gann, Gann Family Cellars. We're tasting wine, talking about his winemaker dinner coming up May 21st, May 12th, which is a week from this Thursday. Tickets are on sale right now. Four-course meal done by Jack and Tony's, live music from Dustin Saylor. It's going to be a magical, fun night, and we're looking forward to having you come to the winemaker dinner, so don't miss that. The question that we had from Dan in Iowa before we took our break was the bills that are in Congress right now about the wine industry and direct to consumer. What's your take on that?
Okay, so some historical perspective.
Okay.
If you were to go back in the wine industry 30, 40 years, what you would find is thousands of distributors and hundreds of wineries. Mm-hmm. And over the last 30, 40 years, that's completely flip-flopped.
Absolutely.
And now we have thousands of wineries, and because of consolidation of the distribution tier, we have just hundreds of distributors available. There is more wine seeking distribution than there is distribution bandwidth available to the suppliers in the industry.
That's a great way to say that.
And so the challenge is for all of the mid-size and small wineries that are seeking distribution, the distributors are not interested in talking to us because their books are full.
Right.
They have limited amount of space in their book, limited amount of salespeople to be able to go out and understand the wines and sell the wines to retailers and restaurants. So we're basically shut out. And so now if you're also going to shut out the direct-to-consumer model to us by cutting off these avenues, then you're really, basically what you're saying is you just want to deal with, the big conglomerates, and that's all you're interested in.
And that's a shame because, in my trip that I took to Miami 2 weeks ago, I went through all the stores, and the California wines are like nowhere to be found. I mean, it was amazing, and all you saw were the big guys, and you did not see anything remotely close to a boutique or small production winery.
I think
it's sad.
One of the books that I read that was it just hit the nail on the head. It's called The Long Tail, and it talks about what Amazon did with books and music. Mm-hmm. Is very similar to the wine industry.
Yeah.
In that you've got some very obscure little varietals, small production wineries, wines from different locations that maybe aren't mainstream, and there's a market for them. There's consumers that want to buy them, but they don't know how to get them or where to get them.
Right.
Because distributors aren't going to carry them. They're not going to carry a wine that may only sell 40 cases or 200 cases a year. It has no interest to them whatsoever.
Right.
So how do you sell that wine to people in the states that want to buy it? The only way you do that is through direct to consumer by shipping.
Right.
And so if you cut off that channel, it's maddening. There's so many people in the wine.
Well, and what's interesting too is my wife works for a very large company, and they own like 70 brands, and the event that we went to was a polo match, and then they're going to do the same event in Chicago. They literally have to sell the wine back to the distributor, and then buy the wine from the distributor in Chicago, as opposed to just taking it and shipping it themselves, and all this additional cost. And guess what happens? That additional cost is being passed on to you and I, Joe consumer, and that's another fallout of this as well.
There's been so much consolidation at the distribution tier. The distributors are on the borderline of having, we'll call it monopoly, but let's call it oligopoly power.
Yeah.
And believe me, they're extracting their profits out of the consumer.
Yeah. So a hot topic. Go to the best site that I know of is Free the Grapes. Go there, voice your opinion, write to your congressman, make a stand, because we're kind of stuck. Whatever that law comes out to be, we're kind of stuck with it.
The system is broken.
It is.
Consumers have the least amount of choice, and we want to take choice away from them even further.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It makes no sense.
No.
Makes no sense.
So what was the other question, Kevin? That was it.
Totally different topic.
Okay.
Off the soapbox.
Something happy.
Stacy from San Diego.
Stacy from San Diego. All right. Hi, Stacy. Oh, interesting. Now, the question is from Stacy in San Diego. What is the hardest wine to make? I think I know the answer to that, but go right ahead.
I'm going to say the Pinot Noir.
I totally agree.
And it's not so much the making part, it's the growing part.
Oh, interesting.
It's the, based on where you are, a lot of these grapes are pretty hardy. The Pinot Noir grape is probably the most fragile of all the crops, different varietals that we grow. And so that is the one that really you're handling with the kid gloves. It's the one that you're just babying all the way through the season. And just the slightest little thing, ends up, can really hurt the crop. For us, winemaking really is about growing the crop and getting it there. When we control the vineyards, we control the fruit. What shows up at the crush pad is, we know, going to be the best available fruit out there and can turn into great wine. And so for us, it begins at Bud Brig, and we're managing it all the way there. It's kind of like, Jack from Jack and Tony's, the chef. If you give him great ingredients to make a meal, he can make a great meal. If you give him crappy ingredients to start with, you're not going to make a great meal for him.
No.
So for us, it's all about the wine growing in that 6-month window when we're actually making the fruit. So that's the challenge.
Well, and I agree, Pinot, but I look at it from the production side of it, from what I see on the production side, and the part that becomes a little more labor intensive is in the Pinot Noir. Your steel tank is an open top steel tank for the most part, and your punch downs are really done either by hand or by hydraulics, but it's real gentle, because those are real delicate skins. You don't want to pulverize the skins. The cap is starting to rise. That's the lees and sediment, and everything's starting to rise. And you want to punch that down to extract your color and tannin in the wine. But you don't want to, like you would do for this Malbec, you don't want to pump it over through a machine. You'll destroy the grapes, and the skin will be just a mess. And so that's a lot more labor on what I look at.
So with our Pinot Noir, because it's such a small lot, we actually did the maceration in macro bins.
Okay.
So rather than putting the whole thing into a big tank, those white bins that you see on the back, those are basically 1,000 pounds, half a ton. And so we had a series of them. So it was all done by hand. So you're not having to use a tank and a bigger vessel. Much smaller vessels would go, because they are only about 4 feet tall. It's very easy to get up and do it by hand.
So do you find if it's in that smaller container that you're extracting the skins off of there sooner? I mean, is there part of the process is changing a little bit as opposed to a big 20,000 gallon tank?
Well, you've got so the
ratio.
Yeah. So in a big tank, the cap's going to float to the top.
Right.
How about all that juice at the bottom?
Right.
Whereas in a shallow, small contained macro bin, you actually have very good juice to leaf contact.
Okay.
Juice to cap contact, and that is, I think, more ideal for getting that extraction and getting the color and getting the tannins out of it.
So if you're buying Pinot Noir and you wonder why the price is so high, that's why. It's just a little more labor intensive.
Well,
and
because the fruit gets beat up, and
then game over.
Yields aren't up there where they might be on a Bordeaux blend.
Sure.
Something a little more hardy with a thick skin.
Sure.
Cabernet, you can pretty much whack around pretty hard, and it's a hardy grape.
Well, and then you can blend other things in there to really help out what maybe you're not seeing in the product. Pinot, you're not. I mean, you're kind of.
Well, there's a lot of Pinot that's trying to be Syrah. So I'm just
We're going to take a break. This is Scott Jordan. You're watching live here at Cellars of Sonoma.